We are joined by a very special guest today on Locked On Royals, a Royals draft pick from the 2024 draft class. We'll talk to Zach Cawyer next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Jack Johnson. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. And you can listen to us on wherever you download your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. And for you first-time listeners wondering what to expect, we bring you episodes Monday through Friday, and we're always so happy to have these off-season interviews like the one we have today. And it's even better when we get to do it with a Royals draft pick, Zach Cawyer, a 2024 11th round pick out of TCU. Got a bunch of questions for him lined up today. Before we dive into that, though, want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You want to make any picks for a big week? We got Feast Week college basketball, you got college football, NFL, NBA. Make all your picks over at FanDuel. Make a lot of money. I know that I have. But let's kick things off here. Bring Zach in. Zach, first things first today. How are you doing on this holiday week?
Doing well. Happy to be with some family, enjoying the Thanksgiving break.
Well, I know people are watching on YouTube here. You got an awesome shirt that you're wearing. So for those that are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, you guys aren't seeing what an awesome shirt that Zach has on. But let's just start here with the offseason, man. I mean, I know it's a grind in baseball. You got to work on a lot of different things. What has this offseason been like for you?
So far, it's been really great. I'm very blessed to have gone to TCU, the school in my hometown of Fort Worth, and getting to use all the facilities there, having access to the weight room, the recovery centers, and probably the most important thing is access to other alumni who have been playing professional baseball. This is now my second off season as a professional baseball player, and the advice and help that they have given me on how to manage my workload moving into the season, how to be best prepared for spring training has really been amazing. So I think that's been my biggest superpower, is just being close and having a good support system.
So is there anything that you went into this offseason, really wanting to work on, whether it be a pitch, whether it be bulking up a little bit? It's like I said, you got a lot of months to work on things, so it's maybe not hammering one thing out for an entire month or multiple months. What has been that focus, maybe that goal for you this offseason?
Yeah, I think twofold. I think as far as the weight room goes, we're definitely still trying to build just a general strength base for me. So really just getting after in the weight room, having some fun, putting some weight on the bar. It doesn't hurt to go look in the mirror when you get done lifting either. And then as far as the pitching side, just continuing the foundation that I've already built in pro ball. I think the one thing we're trying to work on is a change up this offseason. And so messing around with that, working with some of the Royal staff on different pitch grips and how it's coming out of the hand, and seeing if we can iron something out that will help me with hitters on both sides of the plate.
Now, you had a very impressive, first year in Quad Cities. You actually get the promotion to AA Northwest Arkansas. How would you grade your first year there and really having that full season, if you will, and then seeing that promotion at the very end of the year?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was as good of a first year of pro ball as I could have imagined. I mean, really went out there and had success from the beginning to the end. Was able to put together a complete season, and I think after working so hard and having success for so long, seeing that they noticed that, and with the promotion to Northwest was a big deal for me. I was very excited about it at the end of the year.
Now, in that first full season of Pro Bowl, obviously there's going to be a lot of moments that stand out for you, whether it be family watching you, a start that you remember, an at-bat that you remember when you were facing somebody. What is that standalone moment, if you will, that first full season of Pro Bowl, whether it be a I made it moment or just one that really sticks out to you?
I think my biggest moment through this first full season was coming down the stretch of the first half of the season. We were in the running for to clinch the playoff spot. We had been playing really well, and it was coming down to the last week, and it was coming down to specific games in the last week. So there was a big a lot of playoff atmosphere moments, and coming down the stretch, I think it was the second to last game of the first half. I went in there to close a one-run ball game, and the energy in the ballpark as far as our dugout, the opposing team's dugout, and really even the fans in the stadium. It was just another level. And pro ball is a grind. It's your first time you're playing every single day for a long period of time, and sometimes the games, you have to fight the urge for them to be monotonous. And this was a moment where every pitch really mattered, and when the results happened, the energy was great, and it was a lot of fun to get some of that experience in minor league baseball, because there's a lot of teams, a lot of organizations where you can make it all the way to the big leagues before you have a moment like that.
Now, being a reliever that you are, you had 11 saves in Quad Cities last year. You got to have that different mentality, right? You got to have this. I've always found it interesting when talking with prospects in the Royal system of you got the mentality of a starter. You got to work 5-6 innings every single time you're out there. Whereas for you, it's shortened out there, and you're in those high leverage moments. I'm sure in your life, whether it be little league, high school, college, you've started games before. But how does that mentality shift? Going from I got to go through this order 3 times to I need to get 3 big outs right here.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a different mentality. When you go into the game, you got to be sharp that very moment, because you might get brought in with in a 1-run ball game where there's already runners on first and second, and even this year there's times where if that first pitch isn't where you need it to be, dialed in correctly, the hitter makes you pay for it. But I really just love that. Like, there's something about the big moment and making it matter so much I just always love to step up for it. It gets the blood pumping, it gets the nerves going just the right way. And I really wouldn't have it any other way. There's nothing better than coming into a close game or a big situation and being able to get out of it.
And two, when you're out there in the bullpen, there's got to be a variety of guys you talk to. You got a bullpen coach, you got all the other relievers out there. But between Quad Cities and Northwest Arkansas, and probably more Quad Cities since you spent more time there, was there a coach or a teammate that stands out to you that really helped you through this entire long season?
Yeah, I think both my pitching coaches in Quad Cities. Now, I only spent the very end of the season in Double-A, but the majority of the season in High A. Both my pitching coaches in Quad Cities were. I learned a lot from them. They were great sounding boards as far as how to attack hitters, what we're seeing, in preparation in the bullpen. Clayton Morrison was our bullpen coach in Quad Cities, and getting to talk about strengths and weaknesses for the hitters ahead, where I need to miss in specific pitches, where just making sure that I was the best prepared for each moment. I always felt like I could go to them, and that was really important to me. And I learned a lot just in general about reading swings, reading moments, and being able to execute pitches, the right place at the right time for those end of game situations.
Now, the Royals are known for, at least of late, it wasn't all this way or always this way, Zach, but they've been known for developing younger pitching, working with different arm slots, working with different pitches, really putting a focus into that analytical data, the advanced data, spin rate, stuff like that. How did you view that in your first year in pro ball? Is it noticeable there? Is it kind of underlying throughout the season that you're working on things you didn't even know you were going to be working on? Because we know the Royals want to put a lot of focus in that, especially starting at the lower levels, Columbia and Quad Cities. So coming out of college, coming from TCU, what was that change like? Was it any different than TCU? Because I know they can be very analytical as well.
Yeah, no, I think it is. And the difference between TCU and the Royals is the Royals just have a bigger staff, more eyes, more minds working together to help you out. And I think they did a really good job my first year of letting me be myself, because I've never been a big person on the analytics or worried about super specific things, but then pointing them out to me whenever you have a bad outing or two and you need to make an adjustment. So I think they did a really good job at really meeting each individual person where they were. I can also go as far as say, like, this offseason working on the changeup stuff, being on Zoom calls with large groups of the higher ups and people who from every different department, showing me different big league grips, explaining me why the pitch is going to work, why they think it works best with my arsenal. They've really checked all the boxes for me as far as putting the effort into making me better.
So I was going to ask you about what pitch you've been working on, but you've already highlighted it's going to be your changeup here. So when you work on a pitch like that, because we see this at the big league level where you might get a new pitch to work with as a pitching coach, but you still have to have the trust that it's going to work in a game. You've thrown bullpens before, right? You've thrown simulated games before. You can throw it then because there's no pressure to this pitch may not go where I want it to. It might get hammered. From your perspective in working on a new pitch, what do you tell yourself when maybe early on you don't feel as comfortable, but to add this to your repertoire, I'm going to have to throw it more than I'm maybe comfortable with early on?
Yeah, I think you just have to understand that maybe the result's not going to be what you want it to be at that moment, but in spring training games and games where you're up by 3 or 4, when the situation isn't necessarily do or die, you just have to trust it, because the goal isn't necessarily to get every single hitter out in Quad Cities or to get every single hitter out in Northwest Arkansas. The goal is to do it in Kauffman Stadium, and to be able to be successful at that, I know I'm going to need that pitch later on. So it's definitely the ego of a pitcher and the ego of a late inning reliever does not always like to throw a pitch you're not necessarily confident in and seeing a result that you may not like. But you just kind of have to know what the goal is at the end of the day, and that you're going to need it when you get there.
So if you have this new pitch in your repertoire, you're looking at Double A Northwest Arkansas. What is the goal for you in 2026? Because it's not always linear, as much as we'd like it to be. Of you go from one level to one level to one level year after year after year. You were one of those guys that made the jump late in the year because of how well you had performed in Quad Cities. So looking ahead to this next year, is it that similar goal of want to dominate, in Double A Northwest Arkansas and get a shot at Omaha at the end of the year? Or is it more so, let's just take it game by game, outing by outing?
No, I think it is, take it game by game. You don't want to put any expectations on something where, you think if you're pitching really well and all of a sudden you don't get that call up, that you're so in your head that the performance starts to lack. But yeah, I also don't want to cap myself. I do think that the sky is the limit for next year, and that there's an opportunity that, if God willing, that I could make a debut. So I really think it's just kind of staying where my feet are. We talk a lot about that, and trying to get comfortable where I'm at. I think Double A is going to be a good challenge for me. I think you start to face a lot of guys who are very, very experienced in professional baseball, and just focusing on that challenge and not worrying about the rest of it, I think is the best way for me to hopefully get as far as I can next year.
I got a final couple questions for you, Zach. These are more so on the fun side here. So, you can be as open as you want to, as closed off as you want to. It's just how you want to answer them. So I always love to ask this, especially to relievers, right? Was there a guy growing up that you sort of idolized or just, mimicked your game after a little bit? Now, some people I've asked this question to, they've said, no, I just always wanted to be myself. I never tried to mimic a wind up. I never tried to, wear my hat a certain way to, we had the Fernando Rodneys growing up if you wanted to wear your hat to the side a little bit. But was there one guy growing up that you said, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but I really want to just mirror my game after him?
No, there really wasn't, honestly, but I would just say that it was more so the moment that I always kind of got so excited about whenever any of the big closers would come in. It's so exciting to know you're watching the playoff game and a reliever comes in and they only may get one out that game, but they make the most of it. Just the reactions and the excitement on their face, the excitement from the dugout, the excitement from the crowd. I think that was more so just the moments that I really carried with me.
And TCU, getting drafted out of the 11th round, having this experience to move to the bullpen at the professional level, how did that coaching staff and the overall experience in Fort Worth really prepare you for being in pro ball now?
I think one of the biggest things is it taught me how to use my resources. You come from McLennan Community College, where I think we had a total of 3 paid coaches. Your resources are very limited. We're working out in the public, community college weight room with just, average people. So I think, you don't have the nutrition staff, you don't have the mental coaches, you don't have all that kind of stuff. You don't have the data analytics even to go check what you've been working on. So I think TCU really gave me the opportunity to learn that I have all these resources and learn how to use them. And then whenever they've been amplified by what the Royals have for me, I've been able to, just grab onto every little thing that I can. And then also obviously just the moments that college baseball provides, the importance, I think, of every little pitch, because every game matters so much. That kind of experience also really helped.
Now, after you finished up your days at TCU, you of course had draft day, going in the 11th round to Kansas City. Walk me through draft day for you. And if you could go a little bit deeper into when did you know the Royals had that serious interest in you? Because I'm sure you had a bunch of calls, teams that were interested. But on that day, 11th round comes around, phone call happens. Just paint us all a picture of what that looked like.
Yeah, I would say I knew there was a good interest from a lot of different teams, starting even back in the fall at TCU when those fall meetings came. The regional scouts came to start meeting with you. So I knew there was a lot of interest, and I knew after the season that I had at TCU, the likelihood of me getting drafted was high. But when, I had no idea. Obviously, I was hopeful for a day two call, and that was a very long day of kind of sitting around trying to stay away from the draft, not think about it. But when your life is about to be picked up and moved across the country, it's impossible to get it off your mind. Um, so I had a couple of calls with a couple of teams that night after day two and the morning of day three, and I actually don't think the Royals were one of them. But I still was like confident in it. I just hoped it was going to be done as soon as possible because I was really tired of worrying. Thank the Lord that the second pick of the day, before I even realized the draft had started, they had already taken me. I'm sitting on the couch with my sister, getting ready to turn on a TV show to keep my mind off of things, and my dad comes screaming in from the other room, and so he was the one that broke the news to me, actually. So my brother had come into town. We all celebrated. We were all super happy. I think about 5 minutes later, my agent, because he was still getting his computer set up for the day, he calls me. He goes, "Hey, dude, congratulations!" And then about 5 minutes after that, the Royals did, and they congratulated me. And unfortunately, the worry, the freaking out didn't stop from there. Then I had to pack my life up and get over to Surprise pretty quickly. But it was an absolute dream come true. It was a day, a moment that I will absolutely never forget. And yeah, I wouldn't have wanted it any differently, honestly.
Well, it's going to be tough to top with this next question here because I have to imagine draft day is either the number one baseball memory you have. If it's not, it's a very close second. But I did want to get a question here about your favorite baseball moment. So if you couldn't pick draft day, it's a game. This can be, again, Little League. It can be high school. It can be college. It can be last year at Quad Cities. What was the moment that just sticks out to you? If you had to answer it, just that one time where baseball felt like everything to you?
Yeah, honestly, I would go back to Little League, playing in district championship games. The one I remember when we won sectionals my final year, and we got to go to state. Just that kind of that whole experience. Little League was a time where baseball is truly just fun. You're not having to worry about earning a scholarship somewhere, a coach watching you, a scout watching you. You're genuinely out there to enjoy playing the game and nothing else matters. And I think kids really take that for granted. And whenever me and one of my buddies this last year in Quad Cities went out to a Little League and watched a couple games, and it just brings back those memories of when baseball truly was nothing but fun. And you had a bad outing, it didn't matter. You struck out at the plate, it didn't matter. You were just out there with your friends trying to win as many games as possible because it's what you love to do.
Zach, I got one more for you. Really appreciate your time. These have been some phenomenal answers, and I know people listening are just going to love to watch you play this year in Double A and hopefully Triple A and beyond that.
Yeah.
You could probably be that fast riser in 2026. But if there's a fun fact about you, right? This is a tough one, so I'm putting your feet to the fire a little bit. If there's a fun fact you have, it can be very simple. It can be your favorite movie, favorite song, hidden talent you may have. What would it be so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better?
I would say like all the coaches on the teams I've played for know I'm a big side quest guy. So that's the one great thing about pro balls. I'm traveling all over the country to places I've never been, and even in the small towns of the Midwest, there's really unique things to do. And so every away trip in the mornings before the games, I'm trying to find whatever the coolest thing to do in that town is, and I'm excited to continue that now in Double A and then across the country in the Triple A and the big leagues.
All right, Zach. Well, appreciate your time as always, man. This was great hanging out with you. You have a great Thanksgiving and can't wait to talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Jack.